All right, hello there everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Cross IT Lunch and Learn. I'd like to thank you for joining us here this afternoon. I'm Todd Weller. I'll be your presenter today. But before we get into the presentation, just a reminder to if you have a comment or if you have a question, please do so in the chat. By doing that, you'll be entered into a chance to win lunch on us, because this is a lunch and learn after all. So we'll put you in a drawing, and possibly the winner will receive then a restaurant gift card to get some lunch. All right. So today's topic is a continuation of what I had talked about last time, and that is we had been looking at the insert from device script step and everything that we're able to do with that. When I went back and reviewed, I realized there was one thing that probably needed to be discussed that we didn't have time to cover, and there was also a couple things that we could go over to kind of expand on what we've done. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to kind of circle back to that and take a look at the insert from device script step. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so you should recognize this if you were with us last time, but if not, we'll go back and do a quick review where we've been looking at the insert from device script step. But specifically here, we were using it to help us do some finds. So I've got converted everything over. Instead of using an iPad, I'm now on a iPhone, or iPod Touch actually. So let me wake that back up here. Okay, and this was the solution that we had, and we had talked about how being able to scan information from a barcode can be very helpful, especially on an iOS device, because you're not dealing with a keyboard or anything like that. So of course all of that works. So if I were to look up a packing slip, I can touch, I can go ahead and say, okay, go ahead and create a new find. I can go ahead and put in the number, and then tell it to go, and it pulls up that record in my found set exactly as we would expect it to do. But as you can see, there was a lot of things that had to be done in order to do that. So is there an easier way to do that? And that's what we looked at, is this idea of using the insert from device script step, which allowed us to scan the number and then automatically do the find through the use of a script. So let me go ahead and activate that script right now, and you'll see what that does. I'm now in the scan mode. Go ahead and scan that barcode here. All right, and it performs the find, and now I'm found that packing slip. So let's go ahead and take a look at that script. We'll jump back over here to FileMaker Pro and get into our script workspace. All right, so this is our script. Where we're just entering find mode. We're using the insert from device there to go ahead and get that barcode number, and then we perform the find. Okay, certainly as you saw, it works, but what if we do this? So let's switch back over here to the iPod Touch. Go ahead and start that, and you'll notice here that I have the ability to cancel. It actually read a barcode on me, so let's get back into that. So if I hit the cancel button, there's a couple things. It's going to ask me if I want to continue the script. If I select yes, and it's going to give me another message that says you didn't enter anything that I could find against. And so we can just hit continue, and it brings us back to our original found set. But neither one of those are really scenarios where we want to leave the user. We don't want to have them guessing as, do I say yes, do I say no, do I continue, what's going on here. And so that's where we can do some error trapping within our script to help us out and also help the user out. So that's what we want to go ahead and look at right now. So back over here in our script workspace, one of the things that we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and insert a line, and I'm going to add a script step that is set error capture. All right. And it defaults to on, which is the setting that we want, because normally, as you saw, FileMaker is going to at least let us know if an error occurs, and so we can handle that. But by using the set error capture on option in our script, now FileMaker says, okay, if any errors happen to occur, it's going to be on you. All right, so you're going to have to figure out how to deal with them. So we'll make note of it, but then you've got to handle it. All right, so that's the first step. And so by using set error capture, now we don't have to worry about the user getting any messages. But again, that's probably not a very good scenario, because it could leave them in a layout where they shouldn't be, or with a found set and that shouldn't be there, and then possibly they make changes to data that you don't want them to change. So that's why we want to handle it. So we're going to go ahead and drop in a little bit of space here. All right, and so if we'll do just a simple if statement. All right, and then to figure out what that error was, there's a function that we have, which is, oddly enough, get last error. All right, so if get last error equals 0, which FileMaker, any function or any script step that is executed, if the result is 0, you know that everything worked fine. So if everything is good, then we can just go ahead and say, go ahead and perform the find. All right, so that looks good. We're trapping for the error, and then if they get last error, we're going to perform the find. So let's go ahead and save that. And I will pick up the trusty iPad again, or iPod Touch, that I've got to wake up. Okay, so now go ahead and tap the button to start that script. And then, all right. Let's see, let's try this again. Go ahead and hit the cancel button. And so we didn't get the errors, but it just brought us back here to this screen where it's asking, okay, what do you want to do? So I'm still in find mode, which again is probably not a case, a place where we want to leave the user. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that find. So there's a little bit more that we can do with our script to make it work well. And what that is and let me go ahead and I pulled these up previously, is that this is the FileMaker Claris help for all of the error codes. And you see that there is an error code that corresponds to the user canceling an action. So we can go ahead and make use of that. So what we do is we just go ahead and go in here, and we're going to go ahead and add an else if statement in our script. Okay, and leave a little bit of extra space there. Now, one of the things that I like to do is, because this get last error function is going to tell us what the last error was, not just any error. All right, so it's going to look at the last completed script step and tell us if there was any error or not. So if you have a script where you're navigating to a layout, performing a find, then sorting the records, but you don't check for the error until after the sort record step, that's the error that you're going to get. So it could possibly be where your find fails, but the sort succeeds. So get last error is going to return a 0, even though there was a problem with the find operation. And so that's where we want to go ahead and put in something that I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually set a variable and set it to that. So that way I've trapped for that error immediately after the function that was called, and then I can update this to be okay. Now you'll notice here that I actually wrapped it around, use the get as number function, because variables are stored as text. And thanks to a hint that I was given a few years ago at our local developer group, is that sometimes in conditional logic, variables don't always evaluate as a number the way that you think they would. So by using get as number, then you're guaranteed to know that you're comparing a number against another number. So we'll do that one there, and then we'll just go ahead and add the same thing down here. And there's our error code. And then all we got to do here is just go back into browse mode, because we don't want to leave the user in find mode because they may not know how to handle that. All right, so we can go ahead and save that. We switch back over here to the iPod Touch. Wake it up. All right. Now if I go ahead and hit the cancel, you'll see that it brought me back into find mode, or back into browse mode that I kind of expected to see. All right, so one more thing that we may want to try, and this is something I would certainly recommend doing, and that is because there may be a case where there's an error that occurs that we're not expecting. So you just go ahead and throw in an else statement and then use a custom dialog. All right, so click on the gear to get into this. Of course, you can give it a title. Okay, and then we just go ahead and add in what that error number was. Don't need a cancel button. And now we're just alerting the user to the fact that there was a problem, and so now they can see it. All right, so we just go ahead and save that. Everything is good, and then we are done with that. Now I've gone ahead and made what I would consider like a final version where I've added a little bit more formatting, where you can see I've got a number of comments in here, and a little bit better defined on our error message that if that unexpected error situation would happen to pop up. All right. So that was the one thing that I wanted to cover, is that anything that we can do to help the user is certainly something that we want to do. All right, and so now we're ready to move on to like another example here of how to use the insert from device. And this is for an actual solution that we had built for a client to help them do their physical inventory. They had to go around and scan all of their inventory items once a quarter so that they can compare with what they say is in inventory is actually out on the floor. So this was something that they could quickly scan. And of course, when you're quickly scanning in a situation like that, you don't want to do tap a button, scan a number, tap a button, scan a number. That was just going to be very annoying for the user, so we wanted to come up with a better way to do that. And so what we did is we were able to take the insert from device script step, a few other things that we learned. Let me switch over here to that file, and able to set it up so that we kind of scan continuously. So I'm going to go ahead and get those barcodes here in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and tap the scan button to start the process. And now I'm ready to go ahead, and you can see it's scanning. And you can see it's adding numbers to the list. All right, I think that's probably pretty good. Now the only thing that's a little bit counterintuitive is that because we're constantly launching that insert from device script step, the way to get out of it once you're done scanning that area of the floor or that row or whatever, you actually hit cancel. So we hit cancel. It asks us, do we want to proceed and process those numbers, and so that way we're able to process everything in a batch. Go ahead and confirm that we are in row 1, and then now it goes ahead and adds in those scanned items and gives us a quick summary of that. You scanned 12 things, but one was a duplicate, so you may need to go back and double check, and then hit continue, and now the user is able to scroll through and see, okay, what was scanned in that particular area of the warehouse. So nice, quick and easy solution. But there was a couple, I wouldn't call them tricks, but certainly things that we had to figure out how to do, and that's what I want to spend the rest of our time here today, is just kind of taking a looking and digging into those specific things. So let's go ahead and we can close that. But then here, go ahead and get the workspace for our scan demo, and I've highlighted a couple scripts that I'm going to go ahead and insert some pauses just so that we can talk about the process as we go through it. as we dig into it here. So let me just go ahead and put those pauses back in. Okay. So I think with that, we are ready to go. So I can go ahead and go back into scan. Now you'll notice what it does is the first thing it takes us over to that layout where we're collecting the numbers. Those are both global fields. The top one is for like a list that we're concatenating as we scan each individual item, and then the field that's located there at the bottom is actually the target for our insert from device script step. All right, so as I hit continue, that moves us on, and so now we've got the scanner has popped up. We're ready to scan a number, and then that brings us immediately back to that layout where it's inserted number. And then now, as I continue, it goes ahead and just kind of does a minor processing on that tag number to make sure it's a valid number. But then it also then adds it to the list that's going to be worked on in a batch, and then clears out the tag for the next iteration of the scan. So which is when I hit continue, now we're back into the scanning, and I hit continue, and it actually scanned a different number. It picked up one of the other ones. So there we go. We got continue, and it's added that third one. Hit continue. Now this one here, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel. Go ahead and tell it to process. I'm going to go ahead and put them all in the same row. Now what you'll notice is that because it actually scanned one of my packing slip numbers instead of one of the tag numbers, it knew that that wasn't in inventory, so it highlights in red just to help the user out, kind of identify what's going on. So that's the process slowed down, but let's actually take a look at what is helping to make that process work. So obviously it starts with that button press, which is this script here. Like I said, it navigates to the layout. We clear out our global field. And then the one thing that I discovered is that if I kept trying to call scripts as subscripts, they just kept getting nested. And so I never actually exited the script. So one of the things that we did is we used this idea of an install on timer script, which allows you to run a script in a window on an interval. Okay, and you could have it be 5 minutes, it could be an hour. In this case, I picked 1/4 of a second because I wanted to give this script a chance to finish before the next script was started. Okay, and so this is the script here that actually does the scanning. So it says, okay, go ahead and run that after 1/4 second. Okay, and so if we go down to that script here, which you can see, is that the first thing that script does is right here in this step is that if we run that second install on timer script except with a blank result, now we've cleared it out, because once the script starts, we don't want to have that script continuously trying to run, because like I said, it sets it up on an interval. You're not setting it to run at a specific time, you're just saying run every X number of seconds. And so having it run every 1/4 of a second could be a problem, but by having this be the first step of the script that it calls to run, now all of a sudden it clears it out, and we know that this is the only instance of that script that's going to be trying to run. And then we just go ahead and do the insert from device just like we normally would. Here we've got the error capture, we're getting it, putting it into that global field. Just checking to see if there was any kind of problem with the device or with that, and then we move on. Okay, now this was the next thing I needed to try to figure out is, okay, well, we've got the number. How do we know when we've gotten the number, and what do we do with it then? All right, so let's move over here to our layout. I'm going to drop into layout mode for us. All right, and let's get to that layout. You'll notice that there's this little icon right there that has a little like scroll looking thing with a little starburst. That means that there is a script trigger attached to that particular object. For those of you that haven't used script triggers, there's 3 different types of script triggers that FileMaker allows you to use, and they do exactly what it sounds like they would, which is to trigger a script based on something else happening. Obviously a button is a script trigger, but that's not what we're talking about here. This is, the user leaves a field, they leave a layout, they enter a layout, they open their file, they close the file. Those are all of the script triggers that we're able to use. So what we're making use of here is one of these script triggers, which is onObjectModify. So if I come down here, do a right click, look at the script trigger setup, you'll see that this here is all the list of object level script triggers that you can have. All right, which is object enter, the keystroke, modify, validate, save, exit, switch, and then AV player change. All right, and so what this does is that it's set up that whenever that field is modified, it runs script number 3, which then processes that scan tag number for me. And the reason why, typically when you use modify, if someone's using a keyboard as an input, it's going to be modified with every keystroke, which is not necessarily something you want, because you want to make sure you've captured the entire string before you process anything with it. Now, because of how the insert from device script step works, is that it actually inserts the entire string, and so this script trigger is not kicked off until it sees the entire string be entered. So that's something very nice that FileMaker does for us that we didn't have to worry about. It's just that once the whole tag number is there, the script is triggered through the onObjectModify, and then we're able to move on. Okay. So that is this script trigger here, and then what that script does, which is the number 3 script. Again, it commits the record. And it says, well, if the tag number is not empty, I'm just going to go ahead, grab that tag number. I'm going to add it to the list of tags, clear out the field that I was in, and then I'm just going to use that same install on timer script that started the process when we tapped the button to start scanning. We're just going to launch that same script so that we're ready to scan the next tag number, again with that same quarter-second delay, and then from that point it's just rinse and repeat. And so that's what we have. So a lot of things that you're able to do with the insert from device script step. This happens to be one of the, at least what I consider one of the cool applications that we found to make this continue barcode scanning to help out the inventory process. All right. So with that, let me see if we have any questions. All right, let's see. There was a question about script triggers here. Yes, there are 3 different types or 3 categories of script triggers. They are the file level script triggers, which are typically on a window open or first window open. The install on timer script is kind of considered into that category, even though it's a script step and not something that you attach necessarily to an object on your layout, but that's kind of that category. There's also some layout level script triggers, which would be on layout enter, layout exit, record load, things of that nature, where you're looking at the entire record as a whole, and then you get into the object level script triggers that we'd had a quick preview there. Where you can be looking at an individual field on your layout to help you trigger those kinds of things that you need. Let's see, do we have any other questions? Okay, here's a question about the error codes. Yeah, the list of error codes is there on the FileMaker help. So you get the number and then description. They are grouped. So there's groups in the single digits that are kind of go together. Then it starts groups of 100, 200, and then you have X number under each of those breakdowns that kind of have the errors kind of grouped together. One of the things that I've done, and this might be diving a little deep into the weeds, but actually employ a custom function that I'll just go ahead and pull up here that helps convert that number into the text description that matches what's on the help, so I'm not having to constantly look it up whenever I put a custom dialog. I can just call this function, pass it the number, and then it pulls up the string. All right, this one here was one that was found I believe from Brian Dunning's website, who's well known in the FileMaker community for his resource of custom functions that different people have contributed. And so then it's just a matter of, this one goes back to 2010. So then it's just a matter of, as the platform evolves and new error codes are introduced, then you just go back and edit it. But it makes it a very easy method of passing it a number and then getting some text back that you can help be a little bit more descriptive with your user, rather than just giving them a generic error code. Let's see, any other questions? It does not look like we have any other questions today. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up a little bit early. That kind of makes up for me going a little bit long last time. Just do have one thing to point out for you, and that is with the summer season coming, we are modifying our Lunch and Learn schedule. Usually we've been on the second, third, and fourth Wednesdays of the month, but with everybody's summer schedules, everything getting busy, and all of that with vacations, we're just going to go on the third Wednesday of each month. So that'd be June 16th, July 21st, and then August 18th are the next few Lunch and Learns. Just a reminder that if you have, again, if you have a question, please feel free to submit it either through the chat, or you can also follow up through the survey that is part of the the video that you'll find at the bottom. If you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe. Tell all your friends about it. We certainly appreciate you taking the time